It's Tuesday, May 3. In the headlines, the toll authority says emergency vehicles can get access to highways. More depots going digital. Regionally, arrested BVI premier citing diplomatic immunity. And in sports, Trinidad and Tobago's Olympic Committee elects first female president. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I am Simone Absalom Gale. Setting up a student loan system that factors into the social and economic realities of our society is one major recommendation coming from the recent study done by the Caribbean Policy Research Institute, CAPRI, on financing university education. Researcher Shauna K. Chisholm explains.
An income contingent loan scheme is a suitable model for Jamaica. This model shifts the risk to the lender. This way, if the student ends up in a low employment income job or become unemployed, then the debt service obligation automatically adjusts. Students would choose between paying their tuition upfront or deferring payments through the scheme. The debt would be recorded and linked to a student tax registration number. When the student graduates, or for any other reason ceases studying, they would start making contribution contingent on their income.
Ms. Chisholm explains this model will allow students to gain access to tertiary education without the risk of unpayable debt and would provide liquidity to the university that would allow it to provide high-quality education, thus creating a pool of skilled workers for the country and the economy. She also shares what's seen as an important prerequisite.
Repayment should be collectible from immigrants. There will need to be a bilateral or a multilateral agreement between countries that receive Jamaican migrants regarding the payments of the loan. In all, there is no such thing as free education. Someone has to pay for it. And the only sustainable way is to make it easy and flexible for students to pay.
When asked where the government can get the initial lump sums to provide these loans, Group Chief Investment Officer of JMMB, Mr. Damian Brown, shares his thoughts.
Depending on the cost of funding, and I think the study speaks to it, the potential to partner with multilaterals for seed funding and therefore at an affordable interest rate cost and taking into account the social impact, so it's not just a commercial consideration. There are other questions where there are certain low-risk aspects that could be funded by the private sector if you have the mechanisms to give a high probability of repayment. Again, the private sector in whatever form has a fiduciary duty, whether it's the pension fund holders or to depositors or investors, to ensure that they get an appropriate commercial return. But if it is structured appropriately where the risk can be fully measured, then it can be financed. And I think the most suitable aspect of it to start out would be where you have those pockets that have both the consideration of the social impact and do not have liquidity concerns, which would more align with developmental institutions.
For more information on the report, Footing the Bill, the hard choices of financing university education, log on to CAPRI's website at www.capricaribbean.org. The toll authority says first responders, members of the Public Safety and Traffic Enforcement Branch Highway Patrol Unit, maintain electronic access to the toll roads. The statement follows reports that police personnel responding to a crash involving one of their colleagues on Saturday night were prevented from continuing the north-south highway because of non-payment of the toll. In a statement, the toll authority says preliminary reports from the operators indicate that the vehicle, which collected the injured officer and transported him to St. Anne's Bay Hospital, had to pay at one toll booth, but was given free access to exit at another once the situation was explained to the attendant. It says protocol dictates that an attendant must seek approval from a supervisor to grant the toll exemption. According to the toll authority, this process is usually done in less than 90 seconds. It says preliminary reports from the operators concerning the incident state that there was no issue in the Highway Patrol unit gaining access to the highway to attend to the crash site. On Tuesday, the Planning Institute of Jamaica launched a systematic risk assessment tool platform for Jamaica. The tool, called the Systematic Risk Assessment Tool, SRAT, was developed by the global private sector-led Coalition for Climate Resilient Investment and is designed to enable local decision makers to assess climate risk to Jamaica's major infrastructure networks and to visualize hotspots of economic and social value at risk. Director General of the Planning Institute of Jamaica, Dr. Wayne Henry, explains.
We recognize that our adaptation efforts must be informed by data and science and build on the integrated disaster risk management approach in Vision 2030 Jamaica, our National Development Plan. Already, we have begun to lay the foundation for this more scientific approach, but there is room for improvement. Thus, JSRAT is an important data-driven addition to the analytical toolkit to aid assessment of climate risks, particularly with respect to critical infrastructure, such as water, transport, and energy.
He says Jamaica has suffered great economic loss due to natural disasters, and the SRAT should help to avoid risks.
Over the last 2 decades, for example, Jamaica has experienced some $135.5 billion in damage and losses.
The PIOJ boss says he anticipates the SRAT working in tandem with other systems relative to disaster risk management.
The JSRAT is a potential game changer. Thus, we look forward to its utility as a country, and as a country moves not only modernize, but also to retrofit and harden its infrastructure assets.
5 more examination depots across the island will have access to electronic testing methods for persons applying for their provisional driver's license this financial year. Transport Minister Audley Shaw made the announcement during his contribution to the sectoral debate. He says applicants will also be able to receive their grades electronically under the initiative.
As we seek to modernize our driver testing operations and also to bring trust to our operations, we have been executing the electronic testing of provisional driver's license applications. It is our intention to have the technology implemented.
Mr. Shaw says operations for digitizing driver's license records will also be extended to a further 7 examination depots during this financial year. This allows better access and analysis of driver's license records and ensures greater integrity in the system. The minister adds that the implementation of geofencing technology will strengthen the motor vehicle fitness and inspection process.
This will ensure that there is evidence of vehicles being granted certificates of fitness, that these vehicles have in fact physically been present at the examination depots.
The Transport and Mining Minister also announced that Jamaica will vie for a council seat at the next International Civil Aviation Organization General Assembly in September.
Securing an ICAO council seat will help Jamaica to forge and maintain strategic partnerships with industry stakeholders and provides an opportunity for Jamaica to contribute to decision-making at one of the highest levels in the aviation industry.
The National Works Agency advises that 2 traffic signals in St. James are malfunctioning and works to repair these signals will be undertaken in short order. Community Relations Officer at the NWA, Janelle Ricketts, says the traffic signals at the Providence Road and its intersection with the Elegant Corridor went out of commission due to damage sustained following a recent motor vehicle accident. While issues related to damaged hardware have resulted in the traffic signal at the North Paradise and Harbour Street intersection malfunctioning. Ms. Ricketts says that in the interim, motorists are being reminded that when traffic lights are out of service, no one has the right of way. As a result, all motorists should exercise due care when using these intersections. May 3 is recognized as World Press Freedom Day. This year's theme is Journalism Under Digital Siege. This year's theme underlines the many new digital threats journalists are faced with and demands responses from all concerned stakeholders. In his video message, Assistant Director General for Communication and Information Sector at UNESCO, Tafiq Jalassi, notes that over the past 5 years, 85% of the world's population has experienced a decline in press freedom in their country. And during the same period, 400 journalists have been killed while doing their job. He also notes the significant decline in print revenues and other significant threats. One major threat, he notes, was the rise of new technologies.
While these technologies allow us to access more news than ever before, they expose us to disinformation and hate speech. They also raise new challenges to our privacy and personal data protection, with digital surveillance techniques being used by different actors in violation of the rights to privacy and freedom of expression. The digital sphere has provided the new tools to those who wish to silence free expression, dissent, and investigations into wrongdoings. We have seen an increase in digital attacks, especially against women journalists.
He explains that these threats are all explored in the latest edition of UNESCO World Trans Report on Freedom of Expression and Media Development. Mr. Jalassi stressed that this is the reason why this year's theme was chosen.
It is therefore essential to ensure workable technological and regulatory solutions so that journalists can exercise their profession safely with their sources protected, and that we preserve our collective right to know, to express ourselves, and to protect privacy.
In the business report, Mango Agro Park gets a multi-million-dollar investment. We have that story and your usual market update with Danita Rodney.
At least $20 million will be invested into the production at the Tollgate Mango Agro Park in Clarendon. The project will see 13 large investors cultivating East Indian and St. Julian mangoes on a 935-acre property managed by the Agro Invest Corporation. The mangoes will then be exported to markets in the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and the Cayman Islands. Speaking at the recent handover of leases to 20 young farmers and investors at the Agro Park, Minister of Agriculture and Fisheries Pernell Charles Jr. said that approximately 400 residents in communities around this project will benefit through job creation, business innovation, and community enrichment. He also said, quote, "The government is committed to the continued support of this project and has added another $70 million in the financial year 2022 to 2023 to support irrigation infrastructure," end quote. The Jamaica Stock Exchange has entered into a partnership with the Ghana Stock Exchange. The partnership will see Jamaica and Ghana expanding their products and services to investors in both countries. The agreement was signed by representatives of both entities during a special bell ringing ceremony on Monday at the JSC's Harbour Street offices in Kingston. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Monday, May 2, the US dollar sold for an average of $155.33. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $121.01. The pound sterling traded for $196.09, and the euro sold for an average of $166.99. The following reflects the movement of the JSE indices in Monday's trading session. The JSE index declined by 1,808 points to close at over 400,000 units. The junior market index advanced by 33 points to close at over 4,000 units. The combined market index declined by 1,394 points to close at over 400,000 units, and the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 2,340 points to close at over 400,000 units. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 102 stocks, of which 44 advanced, 48 declined, and 10 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, Blue Power Group Limited, and Caribbean Flavors and Fragrances Limited. Stocks declined for 1834 Investments Limited, Access Financial Services Limited, and AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited. Trading firm were Cargo Handlers Limited, Caribbean Cream Limited, and JMMB grew 7% VR preferred shares. The following companies represents the overall volume leaders. Future Energy Source Company Limited ordinary shares with over 20 million units, Kingston Wharves Limited with over 5 million units, and Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 2 million units. In regional stocks in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was the sole security trading over 75,000 shares. The Barbados Stock Exchange saw 0 securities trading on Monday. Preliminary assessments suggest that Guyana may need about an additional 100,000 skilled workers over the next few years as the local economy continues developing. More from Newsroom Guyana.
Guyana's economy is undergoing rapid development, and as such, many more skilled workers are needed. In fact, Foreign Secretary Robert Prasad said that the preliminary assessments suggest that approximately 100,000 skilled workers will be needed. And during an engagement with members of the diaspora at the Herdmanston Lodge in Georgetown, he said that the government is hoping that more Guyanese can fill leadership positions.
We don't only want Guyanese to be the cleaners or to be the handymen or to be, as it were, the menial laborers in this regard and say, here, that is local content, these are Guyanese being employed. We want also Guyanese to be in leadership position as much as we also want them to be owners and operators of services, of companies. And that is why we have this, as it were, this multi-pronged approach in ensuring that we tap and we reach out and that Guyanese themselves are able to play a part, and a significant part.
On Wednesday, Vice President Dr. Barry Jagdeo said that even now there are labor shortages in many parts of the country. In the oil and gas sector, local participation is also crucial due to the new local content law. And Prasad explained that these are among the reasons the government has been hosting various engagement sessions with members of the diaspora. Meanwhile, Director of the Local Content Secretariat, Martin Pratap, told Thursday's forum that emphasis has been placed on developing the skills of Guyanese within the sector so that they can build their competencies and eventually assume leadership.
So the idea is to have them make the first move. They'll have to provide training, whether in person or through mentorship, to our locals who are interested, and of course to our local suppliers. We have tens of local suppliers who are interested in providing these services, but they don't have the kind of standard that these companies would deem them eligible in order for them to participate. So what we have said to them is that you have to provide training to our locals to ensure that you yourself would consider them eligible so they can participate in the procurement process. And that's under our objective of boosting local participation.
Subcontractors are expected to provide local content plans to the Secretariat for projects they are interested in working on in Guyana. Only after meeting key requirements such as having a specific number of Guyanese workers will any approval be granted by the Secretariat. Reporting for the Newsroom, I am Vishani Raghavar.
In market data for oil prices slipped almost 1% as concerns about the prolonged COVID lockdowns in China outweighed support from a possible European oil ban on Russia. Brent crude was down 77 cents or 0.7% at $106.81 a barrel, and West Texas Intermediate crude dropped $1.09 or 1% to $104.08 a barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Denida Rodney.
In regional news, British Virgin Islands Premier Andrew Fahey has requested immediate release from United States detention, claiming diplomatic immunity. A representative from the United States District Court, Southern District of Florida, confirmed that Fahey, accused of drug trafficking and money laundering, filed a notice of invocation of immunity on Monday at a federal court in Miami. His lawyer filed the documents on his behalf. Fahy has been in the U.S. custody since April 28. He was arrested at Miami Opalock Executive Airport after being criminally charged with conspiracy to import 5 kilos or more of cocaine and 1 count of conspiracy to launder money. He was arrested along with Managing Director of the Ports Authority, Olivine Maynard, and her son, Kadeem Maynard, detained in the U.S. Virgin Islands. Fahy is expected back in court for a bail hearing in the coming days. In Antigua, Prime Minister and ABLP leader Gaston Brown says his party has delivered a resounding response to pronouncements from the main opposition United Progressive Party of a lack of confidence in his administration. Prime Minister Brown commented at the VC Bird bust as the union and the party it spawned marked Labor Day 2022. The country's trade unions held traditional activities to mark the occasion for the first time since the COVID-19 pandemic. Garfield Burford reports.
Today is Workers' Day. We gather here today to celebrate the successes of workers. But our opponents, they have tried to make it into a political contest. They said that today, they will turn today into a vote of no confidence in the Labour Party administration. Well, guess what? They got the answer. They got the answer. And what you're seeing here is a resounding vote of confidence in the Gaston Brown administration.
The Prime Minister, buoyed by the Red Sea of supporters, recounted the progress of his administration in various areas, one of them housing. He provided this update on the affordable housing project for those on low incomes.
And starting within a matter of weeks, we will start construction of those 2-bedroom properties. If you can afford 3, you get 3. And we will subsidize the price of a 2-bedroom property to bring it down to about $120,000. So you can pay $800 a month. That is what you call a caring administration.
He acknowledged that water supply remains a challenge, but says major work has been done.
Within 3 weeks, you will see an improvement in the water situation. What has happened is that a couple of the plants are not working because the maintenance parts that they ordered since October last year got stuck in all of the global logistic chaos. In fact, they were supposed to have arrived last week, and they were delayed for yet another week. We believe they'll be here next week, 2 weeks of testing, and in 3 weeks, you will see an additional 2 million gallons of water per day.
He also noted the challenges regarding increasing food prices as a result of the war in Ukraine and had this message.
I know, and I understand, and I empathize with the difficulties with the increase in pricing. But you know what? We are a resilient people. And I say to you, we will fight this period too. We will fight this period of increased inflation. We will fight this period, and I guarantee you that we will be triumphant.
The statement, "No child left behind," must be applied to all children, including those with special needs. This is the call from one advocate who says the statement is not necessarily true and calls for a change in mindset in the population. Ayana Carter in Trinidad has more in this report.
Where are our children today? They are not only left behind, but they have been forgotten.
In her remarks during the formal opening of the Day of Fun for Special Needs Children on Friday, Osana Foundation representative Bernice Jack made an appeal for persons to make a commitment of inclusion of special needs children in all aspects of life.
Our children matter. Our special needs children matter. They can function. They can be taught to function in the society, to make their own groceries. They can be taught to work.
Chairman of the Trinidad and Tobago chapter of Disabled People International, Dr. Emmanuel Hussein, said that the time had come for the people of Trinidad and Tobago to be more aware of the 15% of persons living with disabilities. He also called for more thought to be given for the accessibility and inclusion of persons with special needs at public places such as the airport and schools.
The place for able-bodied children to know about disabled children is in the schools. When will our children learn what it is like to meet a child in a wheelchair, a child who cannot hear, a child who cannot see, a child who is autistic, a child who may be mentally challenged? We need to do that in our schools. Otherwise, we will have adults who know nothing about disability.
In the Bahamas, the hurricane season is 1 month away, but officials are urging residents to act as meteorologists predict another above-average hurricane season. Bethany McDermott reports.
Officials are predicting an above-average hurricane season with 19 named storms, 9 hurricanes, and 3 major hurricanes. As a result, the month of May has been named National Disaster Preparedness Month. According to Minister Responsible Miles Larota, a comprehensive disaster mitigation strategy has been developed.
This strategy is an integrated approach to disaster management that encompasses the management of all hazards through all phases of the disaster management cycle, namely prevention and mitigation, preparedness, response, recovery, and rehabilitation.
The Atlantic hurricane season starts June 1st and ends November 31st. However, Acting Director of Meteorology Jeffrey Simmons says, like years before, it's likely systems will form outside of the hurricane season. He also explained the reason behind the prediction.
I've heard a lot talking about El Nino and La Nina. There's an absence of, we don't see El Nino happening this year in the Pacific Ocean. So therefore, with La Nina in place, it produces an environment in the Atlantic basin actually for these storms to grow.
In sports, experienced sports administrator Diane Henderson has become the first female president of the Trinidad and Tobago Olympic Committee. In the historic virtual election held at the TTOC's 75th annual general meeting, Henderson won 70% of the vote. 24 votes to the 10 secured by her opponent, Rowena Williams, who is one of the 3 vice presidents. Henderson succeeds Brian Lewis as TTTOC boss. TTTOC says Henderson has contributed significantly to sports governance, athlete welfare, strategic planning, and sports mediation. As chair of Women in Sport Commission, she has been a critical proponent for the continued push for education in sports in Trinidad and Tobago. Henderson has a history of working in sports management, being the first female on the executive board of the National Association of Athletics Administrations of Trinidad and Tobago. In other sporting news, left-handed batter Nicholas Puran has been named the new West Indies captain in ODIs and T20 internationals, replacing Kieran Pollard, who recently announced his retirement from internationals cricket. Puran was earlier the vice-captain when all-rounder Pollard was at the team's helm in the 2 limited overs format. Wicket-keeper batter Shai Hope has been appointed the new vice-captain in ODIs. During the recent airing of the cricket show Line and Length, international cricket commentator Johnny Baran shared his thoughts on Pollard's retirement.
Kieran Pollard, what I would say is, what a fantastic tenure as captain for the West Indies. Across a very, very difficult time, performances with bat and ball. I thought he was a really, really good captain. He managed his resources well. He could hold a position in the side. I think he was a shrewd captain with some of the bowling changes he made and also with the way in which he used himself, both with bat and ball. I think, when you see a player of 34 stepping down, and understandably, it's a short life in the cricket game. And somebody like Kieran Pollard has probably got another 4 years, you would suspect, across the franchises. You need to take as many opportunities, and I think he'll make a fantastic coach. I could easily see him stepping into more into coaching roles as he goes on.
Baran also explained why he thought Nicholas Puran would make a good new captain.
He's a really talented cricketer, and I think many people in the Caribbean and many people watching the game would love to see him involved in Test cricket. Now, bringing him into the fold as captain of the one-day side may well give you an opportunity of getting him across all formats. But he's a very in-demand player, and those, to micromanage that kind of talent and to keep enough, what's important is that, understandably, when you're of a certain age, you if you've got, family commitments, you've got mortgage payments to make, the franchise, going down the franchise route is a very, very attractive option. But I think he'd be a brilliant appointment as far as a captain is concerned. And I'd love to see him playing all formats, but that may be a bit more of a journey.
According to a statement from Cricket West Indies director Jimmy Adams, he says, quote, "The selection panel believes that Nicholas has matured as a player and they were impressed with his leadership of both teams when Kieran Pollard had been absent. The experience he has gathered playing in various franchise leagues around the world was also a factor in the decision to recommend him for the T20 captaincy," end quote. His first role as skipper will be to lead them in the 3-match ODI series in the Netherlands beginning May 31. And that's the news on PBC Jamaica. Remember to follow us on all social media pages at PBC Jamaica. Thanks for watching.